Top rope.
Welcome, everybody, to today's regular scheduled meeting of the Woburn City Council of March 3rd, 2026. Please remember that this meeting is being recorded, so please silence your cell phones. And if you are able, if you can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Council Mara.
Present.
Council Demers.
Present.
Council Dillon.
Present.
Council DeMambro.
Present.
Council Ferrulo.
Present.
Council Mercer Bruin. Absent. Council Papalato.
Present.
Council Viola.
Present.
President Toro.
Present.
Make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the previous meeting's journal and approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion that we suspend the rules to take the next matter out of order. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That order is for the Woburn Wrestling Team.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we read this resolve, I want to take a second to thank Coach Richie Rodriguez of the Woburn Memorial High School Wrestling Team. Richie, thank you very much for your dedication to the program and to the kids. The impact that you have on these young children, on the mat and off the mat, is fantastic. Woburn is fortunate to have someone like you and your assistant coaches who pour so much time and energy into our program and into our community. Thank you very much for representing Woburn in our city. Appreciate it. Okay. Whereas the Woburn Memorial High School Wrestling Team had an overall record of 22-5-3 in 2026, and whereas the Woburn Memorial High School Wrestling Team was the 2025 Brendan Grant Memorial Tournament Team Champions, being the first team tournament win in over 10 years, and whereas the Woburn Memorial High School team had 22 dual meet wins, setting a new single-season wins record in program history, previously set at 20 wins in both 2001 and 2025. And whereas the Woburn Memorial High School Wrestling Team were the Middlesex League Liberty Division champions for the first time in 25 years. And whereas the Woburn Memorial High School Wrestling Team is led by senior captains Thomas Knieve, Caitlin Castaldi, Maggie Campbell, Aiden Manell, and Cole McPhee, as well as head coach Richie Rodriguez and assistant coaches Nick Camacho and Mike Bentley. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Woburn that the Woburn City Council recognizes the achievements and accomplishments of the Woburn Memorial High School Wrestling Team and extends its best wishes and hopes for continued future success. So what we'll do is we're going to strategically try to have everybody over here come up between, we're going to take a picture. So maybe some in front of the podium, some up here in the council floor. Coach Rodriguez, you can kind of try to coordinate that.
It's like Richie's done this before. Yeah. Congratulations. 5-8.
Thank you. More layers. So the ones on the ends go up on the stage.
We're all shorter than all you. You got a chance. Who's going to Oh, Emilio. What's up, Jimmy? Want Emilio in front? What's up? I haven't seen you.
All the way to the front. 'Cause
Here.
You guys are too wide. I'm trying to narrow you down. Too wide. Trying to narrow you. So from here, no, don't be further than this. So come down to the front or push down. I gotta have you here. Okay? Yeah, it's fine. Right here. Okay. Yep, go all the way to the front. You can kneel down if you need to. Can I have you at the end down here in the front? All right, everybody smile. Okay, you're good. Okay, narrower, narrower. Bob, Lou, in front of. You guys are really testing my skills here. You're good.
We need like
Congratulations to all of you. I'm going to save you guys some pain. If you want to stay for the meeting, you're more than welcome to stay, but you can also leave if you'd like. So,
No, I just like to be.
thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Rich.
Good.
See you later, Charlie. I coach him. Really? Good? Fair enough. So.
Yeah. Make a motion that the resolve be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt the resolve. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to return to the regular order.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is a request for presentation for the new Boston Street Opportunity Analysis. A communication dated February 19, 2026 was received from His Honor the Mayor, Michael P. Concanon, as well as a PowerPoint entitled New Boston Street Area Plan, Woburn, Mass. Actions and Strategies, January 2026 was received.
Make a motion communications be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do you want to suspend the rules to allow?
I'll suspend the rules. Make a motion to suspend the rules to allow the mayor as designees to speak at this time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor Concanon.
President, thank you. Evening, members of the council, Madam Clerk.
Evening, Mayor.
I'm joined tonight by members of the planning team as well as members of the consulting team that helped us with this project. I'm going to turn it over to them shortly to review that PowerPoint that's been shared with you. But I did want to just set the table a little bit. We've been talking about this project for a little while now. This is, we've referred to it as the mini master plan for North Woburn for New Boston Street. That's the update you're going to hear tonight. We've been working on this for more than a year now, and it was funded by a grant from Mass Development. As you know, we're also doing a mini master plan downtown Woburn, but for now, the focus tonight is on New Boston Street. I think we all understand that that is a growing area. It's an area of a lot of attention. We've got the new Boston Street Bridge opening this summer. We've seen already the beginnings of new development happening up there with Cabot and Forbes breaking ground on their project. And I think we all agree that that is the next big area here in Woburn. So the thought behind this opportunity analysis that you're going to hear about, and the mini master plan, the idea was let's try to be proactive in terms of figuring out how we'd like to see that growth occur up there in that section, and let it be our vision and the specifics of that vision crafted by us as a team here in Woburn, rather than being reactive to petitions that may come before us. A lot of work has gone into this plan thus far. There's been community input. I know that members of the council have weighed in somewhat at various steps along the way. So what you're going to hear tonight is the update. You're going to hear that this was a in-depth analysis. It looked at existing conditions. It engaged with the property owners in the area and residents and members of city government. It tries to outline some visions and goals that we as a community can embrace, and it tries to lay out some strategies and actions that we can take to implement that vision. So I just want to reiterate, what you're going to hear tonight are some ideas and some thoughts and some possibilities, some menu items that we as a group can choose from to craft that vision for that section of the city. That's the task that's in front of us. There's been a lot of work, as I said. You're going to hear a lot of detail. We'll try to go relatively quick. We don't want to keep you here all night. But I think you're going to be impressed with the work that's been done, and I think you're going to be impressed with the options and the things that we can do to get ahead of growth up in that area and put our stamp, our vision on that section of the city. So again, I'm joined by Planning Director Cashel, Economic Development Manager Haggerty. But first, I'd like to turn it over to Eric Halverson, who is the principal in this endeavor, and he has a team as well behind him, but Eric will lead the PowerPoint. So unless there's any questions for me at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Eric. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, council members. Thanks for having us here tonight. And thanks, Mr. Mayor, for setting the table for our discussion. We do have a presentation, maybe 20-ish minutes or so. We'll try to move through that quickly. We did kind of
I'm sorry, could you just state your name and your company for the record?
Apologies. Eric Halverson. I am a principal with RKG Associates, and our office is in Boston, Massachusetts. We will try to keep it a little bit high level. The report that we'll have coming out toward the end of the month that we'll be giving to the city will have a lot of detail in there. But tonight we thought it would be good to kind of give you the highlights of the work that we've been doing. As the mayor mentioned, this project was funded by Mass Development. working then in concert with my company, RKG Associates. We also have two other consulting companies that have been working closely with us that we have a long-standing relationship with. One is Innis Land Strategies Group, and Paula is here to talk about the zoning and land use recommendations. And Brian is here from Niche Engineering. They handled all the infrastructure assessments, and Brian will be sharing some of that at the end of the presentation. As the mayor said, I mean, this is an amazing area. It's a large area. It's largely commercial and industrial in use today, with a little bit of new housing that's being put in now, and a little bit of retail, but largely a commercial and industrial district of a big size. And what I thought was interesting about this, and I think why it's been so wildly successful over literally decades and decades, it's been going through different iterations of industrial and manufacturing and commercial development, is really its location. You know, so it's proximate to 93 and 128, next to a commuter rail station. It also has good access for employees and visitors to get in and out of this area. And it's also proximate to things that I think employees want, such as, you know, the new sort of rebirth of Woburn Village. And I think it's this location that has made it such an important industrial hub for so long, not only for Woburn, but really for the whole greater Boston region. When we started looking a little bit more closely about, well, what is actually here in this study area, in this district today, the map on the screen sort of just shows you at a high level what the mix of land uses is. The purple, which sort of predominates the whole study area, is all of your industrial and manufacturing type uses. The red being more of your commercial, office, or retail uses. And then when this map was made, we didn't have the sort of new multifamily at the top there, but you know, we do have that going in. But what we thought was really interesting is, from a land use perspective, it's relatively homogeneous, as you might expect. But we actually went in and we walked/drove the entire district, and we mapped every business that we could see and find and walk into in this district. And we identified what that business is and what they do to the best that we could. Even went in and talked to many of the businesses in the area. That's where we really saw the strength of this area. Every one of those dots represents a different type of business, and you can see just how many different sort of icons there are which representing different business types. I think it is really the diversity of the tenants and the businesses in the park today that really make it special, and I think make it work. Some of the interesting things that we learned when we walked and talked with business owners and employees in the area was sort of understanding that there are existing synergies amongst businesses. There are supply chains that exist just right within this area, where if a machine breaks down in someone's shop, they can actually go next door or down the street and find that part. Or someone can make it for them because you have the skilled folks and businesses who are here that can actually make those things. So it's a really cool and unique area. And we've done a lot of work in industrial parks all over Massachusetts and a lot in the greater Boston region. And they're kind of a dying breed, to be honest. They're evolving over time. They have other uses that have come in as industrial rents have gone up. A lot of times those companies have to move further out. They're moving out to the 495 belt or moving out toward Worcester, moving into New Hampshire. What you have here, I think, is kind of unique. So a lot of what we looked at was, how do you preserve what you have, but how do you also build in the flexibility so that property owners or developers or even businesses can make changes over time as their own business evolves or as their industry sector evolves, so that this continues to be a successful district for Woburn for decades to come. Just very quickly, we did a very in-depth market analysis where we looked at all different types of real estate sectors. I'm just hitting the extreme highlights here for you tonight, but there's a lot more depth that'll be in the report. Right now in the park, as I mentioned, there are a lot of different businesses. I think moving forward, there are a couple of businesses that Woburn may want to think about targeting in terms of retaining the ones that exist, but also going out and targeting new ones for tenancy in the park in partnership with landowners and developers. Those would be professional, scientific, and technical services. Those would be anything from, folks who are doing biomanufacturing, some of the new energy-related businesses, like a Boston Metal, for example. Those are those kinds of sort of more on the technical and high-tech side. Specialty trade contractors are a lot of the businesses that are in there today. Your roofing suppliers, your tile suppliers, your plumbing manufacturers, your electrical manufacturers. And then we have the machinery manufacturing, which, as is probably self-evident, the folks who are actually making stuff, which is either they're making the machines themselves or they're making components for those machines. A lot of these businesses are here today. They are looking for space, the ones that aren't here today. So just continuing sort of that trend we think would be important. The other good thing in this area is you have a lot of parcels, some of which are somewhat small, which I think gives us a unique advantage in that we had a big oversupply post-COVID of massive industrial logistics, warehousing, and things like that in the hundreds of thousands of square feet to millions of square feet. That's not really what this place is, and I don't think it's what it's going to be in the future. Buildings and spaces under 200,000 square feet. That's sort of the niche of this, I think, of this place. And that's what, in the industrial flex market, people are looking for today. So I think you're well positioned for that. On the office side, it is allowed under the zoning, but if you have been following anything, office vacancy is pretty high in the region. We wouldn't suggest really changing anything today, but we're not sure that that's necessarily a strength, at least for the immediate future here. If there are opportunities where a tenant is really looking for a build-to-suit building and they come to a property owner, I think that's perfect, but I wouldn't necessarily put all your eggs in that basket. On the multifamily housing side and housing side in general, this is no surprise, I'm sure, to any of you. Housing is a hot topic. It's in high demand, particularly being this close to the immediate Boston region. You're already seeing some of this both in our study area and immediately adjacent to our study area in Woburn, so a lot of interest in housing. We'll talk a little bit about that as part of the scenarios. Paula's just going to chime in. She and I are going to do a little bit of a tag team on this.
Hello, everyone. Through the chair, if I may. So I'm going to do a little bit of the land use and zoning.
Sorry, can you
You
just
wanna
say your name?
Yes, sorry. Paula Ramos Martinez. I'm the Chief Resilience Officer with NS Land Strategies Group. So what we have here in this area are 4 districts. One is the industrial park, office park, residential, 2-family residential, and open space. The big majority of these parcels are going to be under the industrial park district and some under the office park. No surprise, the big majority of those uses are going to be industrial and commercial, as we saw previously with the land use. As Eric has mentioned, on the more in-depth study, we have shown all the non-conformity maps that we have done. We did this to understand the current situation, if it's aligned with the zoning or there are things that are different, so that we want to understand better. And so the only thing that we wanted that is really relevant is the open space requirement, which is the 30% of the lot to be open space, and 77% of those parcels do not meet that requirement. So that's something that we take in consideration. Parking requirements are very similar to other neighboring communities, but we do have the commuter rail station. It could accommodating parking with other dimensional standards can make land use a little bit less efficient, so we will be looking into that as well. And then residential uses in this area are pretty much not allowed, because under the industrial and the office park is not allowed. There's only a few lots that are under the 2-family district, and so those 1 single and 2-family are permitted only there. And then we have the CW-COD overlay district on the north that does allow multifamily, but it has some density cap of 10 units per acre. So these are the things that we wanted to highlight for you.
I think as things stand today, the land uses and the uses that are here do relatively well match with the zoning. What I think we're going to talk about in a minute is the sort of future of this area, and is change appropriate here. One thing I wanted to mention, and the mayor had alluded to this, we did do public outreach and public engagement throughout the process. We had a meeting in here one evening to talk about the existing conditions and get feedback. We also did a session at Joseph's Catering at lunch hour to try to capture employees and employers who were coming in and out of there. We had a pretty robust online survey that we did. And then we had a meeting with a lot of stakeholders over at the new Fairfield property a month or two ago to talk about the recommendations and get feedback from those folks. So just a couple of quick things that came out of some of our conversations. I talked a little bit about the supply chain that already exists here. When we talked to employers in the area and business owners, they talked about affordability from a housing perspective being a big challenge. There, in some cases, particularly on the manufacturing side, where they can't afford to pay somebody $150,000 a year like a lab tech can get paid. They're losing some of their workers to companies of similar nature up in New Hampshire, where the cost of living is a little bit less. And then the commute times also make it difficult to find and retain employees, particularly those that are not arriving by personal vehicle if they need to take public transit or some other form of transportation. That is challenging right now, particularly without the pedestrian connection from Anderson. A lot of them mentioned an easier connection to Anderson would be very valuable, so they don't have to spend the time walking all the way around the study area to then get to where they're working, particularly if their job is in the center. The property owners and developers, employers in the area talked a lot about relaxing zoning and some permitting requirements, and we're going to talk about some of that in the scenarios. And then one thing that came up is having some additional food and beverage options in the study area would be great. There are a couple there now, but we also recognize that there are a lot within a very short driving distance of here, so we wouldn't necessarily want to compete or oversaturate and take away from what's happening in other parts of Woburn already, but maybe there's some strategic locations where it might make sense to add something over time. So what we'd like to do with the last couple of slides that we have is to go over 3 different scenarios for the city's consideration. And they kind of go from the least amount of change to the most amount of change in that order. The reason why we wanted to do this was we didn't want to come to you with a final scenario. We wanted to get some input from you all and then see where the city wanted to take this after the study is complete. So I'll give sort of an overview of the scenario itself, then Paola's going to come back and just talk a little bit more about some of the key zoning changes that would be for your consideration. So this map here is showing the land uses again as we showed earlier. Under this scenario 1, this would represent sort of the lowest amount of change of all 3 scenarios, where we would largely leave the area alone from a land use and zoning perspective, except for a couple of small changes that we'll talk about in a second. So this scenario going into the future sort of recognizes and says, this is an area for industrial and commercial development in Woburn. That's the way the city wants it to stay, but we're going to add a little bit more flexibility and a couple of additional uses that might not be in the zoning today, but we think would be a good fit for here in the future. Again, building in some flexibility for building owners or future tenants. So that's would be sort of the most basic scenario.
So the first strategy will be to understand the existing land use definitions. And so we would try to clarify, to look more for not such a generic definition, but more to the point. So updating some existing use definitions and then adding new definitions. So any use that has come from the market study that see an interesting in this area, we would like to add those. There are some height buffers and different requirements to separate industrial uses from residential. This is all very normal. And what we want is to improve those, the impact that the industrial district can make on the residential areas. But we also need to take into account that it's not as so restrictive that will not allow certain developments. So what we have proposed in here is to understand better that height buffer, to go from 700 to 200 feet because it's quite generous already, but having a better green buffer between and increase that green buffer with higher quality landscape between the industrial areas and the residential districts. On the table of uses, we also have different thresholds that goes from by right to special permit. What we want to do with those is to understand that there is already a site plan review that has that threshold, and usually is this 15,000. So to leave that as the threshold for site plan review, and then to have the special permit threshold to 50,000. So we will have that by right if it's less than 15,000, going through site plan by right, but going through site plan review from 15,000 to 50,000, and then more than 50,000 that it should go through a special permit. It's not every use, are only some uses where we want to have some understanding of the impacts and make sure that everything is considered. Then we would have these parking ratios, understand better what is the actual demand, and see if there are some strategies of sharing parking space that can help to make the land more efficient and use it better for the developments.
So some of what you'll hear tonight from the zoning perspective reflects what we had heard from property owners and developers, and also just our experience in other communities. And there are a couple of those limiting factors right now, or things that might just throw up a potential barrier for someone who might be looking to invest, such as a 700-foot height buffer from the nearest residential. If we could shrink that, it brings more properties into the realm of being able to be redeveloped, but we still have a pretty good buffer from nearby residential, plus increasing landscaping standards. I think the same with that special permit threshold is really important. At 15,000 square feet, someone who would have to sort of jump through additional hoops with a special permit to be able to put an addition on their building or to add something on their property in order to accommodate a tenant that might be looking to grow. If they can't accommodate that tenant, there's always the potential that they leave Woburn. And I don't think that's probably not what any of us would want in that case. So just trying to tweak some of those thresholds we think might be helpful in that base scenario. So scenario number 2 we start to tweak the land uses a little bit, both reflecting what's already out there so you can see the housing sort of reflected on the north side where the Fairfield project is. On the southern side, you'll see a red area that we've labeled commercial. This was sort of reflecting some of the commentary that we had heard throughout the process of, is it possible to add some retail or some restaurants or some commercial uses that are more in proximity to where people are working. We thought this area might be best because it does have good visibility from major roadways, so a lot of traffic that's going by those areas. And there's also some commercial in this area already, so it's kind of reflecting some of those uses that are there today. So that would sort of bookend the north and south end of the site. Surrounding the site, you'll see a green area which reflects some of the city-owned undeveloped land that already exists as a buffer between some of the single-family residential neighborhoods that are sort of surrounding it on the south side and on the west side. So our proposal would be, as new development comes around, you're doing your approvals, you would ask for or require that buffer continue around, particularly where there are adjacencies to residential. And then you would have the heavier landscape standards in there to sort of serve as that buffer. The final thing I would mention is kind of the blue area that's in the middle, which, for a lack of a better term, is sort of the innovation district. This, to us, as we were mapping businesses and walking the area, seemed to be where a lot of the kind of higher tech, new age businesses are, versus the pink areas where your more traditional industrial exists today. So we thought, would it be possible to sort of call out that middle area as something specific and something different as a way to signal to the market, Woburn is preparing for the next generation of 21st century businesses here. We want to create synergy. We want to bring in innovative businesses. We want to continue building out what we already have from an innovation perspective. So that was sort of the thought process behind this. That would be the major change in the middle. But again, reflecting the need to keep it commercial and industrial, just adding additional uses that would be reflective of kind of 21st century businesses.
Yeah, so what we want to bring here is going to be continue with that added flexibility and predictability that we had in the first scenario. So everything that we said, we are also bringing it in here. Obviously, the proposed pedestrian connection is something important so that we can take into account the T station influx into this area. I take always the public transit, and it will take 1 hour to just go from one side to the other walking. So it is important to give more flexibility also in here. We would have to formalize the commercial zone, and within this, with the zoning strategies, we will bring a new base industrial district, and that is that mixed-use industrial district that you see there. Having these changes and more flexibility, we would also provide a plan unit development, and that's the strategy that we have for that innovation district that would allow for thinking everything as a bigger plan, as a bigger area, giving all of these uses and requirements to work it as a whole, as a campus, as an industrial campus almost. So it brings a lot of flexibility, streamlined process, and there is one thing with the plan unit developments is that they have to be there has to be agreements with the owners. So if that is met, then they could use this planned unit development. It would act as an overlay district, so it just sits on top of that mixed industrial use. And then we would allow for the life science uses. Right now, the biosafety level is up to 2 in Woburn. We would allow that. If we can increase it to 3, it will attract a lot more advanced research, as they have in Somerville, Medford, and Cambridge, allowing for those bio uses. And then I encourage development through zoning incentives, as well as other city support programs like DIFs and TIFs. And then the green buffer, as you already mentioned. Oh, okay. There was another one, sorry. We will be also looking into those dimensional requirements, making a little bit more flexibility. So looking, for example, to remove FAR, which is a little bit more restrictive than the building coverage. So what we want to see here is to have that maximum envelope, but not having a lot of restrictions to it. So we know the predictability that will give us, giving a lot of more flexibility. Potentially we could reduce setbacks. We can have greater building heights within those buffers that we talked before. And so review a little bit of those dimensional standards that we have right now, and see if we could add higher flexibility to the area.
Some of those zoning changes, particularly around the height or a change from FAR to a maximum lot coverage, are trying to reflect the competing requirements that would be on a parcel if you were trying to develop it. So if you're a developer, you've got to figure out, okay, how do I get 30% open space? I have to get my parking, I have to get my setbacks, and then I'm left with my building envelope. So the more that we add, the more we end up restricting that building envelope, And then if the height is only so high, then we can only go so high before we hit our ceiling. So we just mocked up a very quick, this is Industrial Parkway between New Boston Street and Ryan Road. You know, what could that look like with, you know, different styles of buildings, different heights of buildings, buildings that might be set closer to the street versus further from the street, still accommodating open space, still accommodating parking, making sure we're handling stormwater, you know, all the things, site access, all the things that we would need to do. But by adding some more flexibility on the dimensional requirements, we're actually able to accommodate additional development. Or in a case where someone might only want to build a one-story building, but they need big floor-to-ceiling heights for an industrial user, that also gives them that flexibility to accommodate that too. Okay, last scenario before we turn it to Brian to talk about roads and infrastructure. So scenario 3 kind of is the most level of change. We were asked by city staff to kind of push the envelope a little bit and see what we could come up with for a third scenario. So here you'll notice just sort of one big change from the last one. Commercial stays the same on the southern side. Housing stays the same where it is today on the northern side. But there's a little bit less industrial on the southern side, and that flips more to mixed use, where you might have vertically integrated mixed use commercial on the first floor with maybe residential above, or it could be two different types of commercial in the same building stacked vertically. And then some housing as you approach the innovation district. The thought here being putting housing and mixed use closer to where people work. So sort of creating the synergy between the sort of live work environment and also the commercial development where people might be able to go and grab something to eat, grab a coffee, go to the dry cleaner, etc. So that's kind of the big flip between scenario 2 and scenario 3 is the addition of that housing and mixed use.
So we're going to see a lot of the things that were on the scenario 2 coming into this one as well. So I'm going to just go through those. We would like to review the high hazard industrial use restriction. There is also a buffer that prevents residential. Right now I think it's 15,000. Sorry, 15,000. Oh my God, 1,500. Yes, sorry. And it's quite restrictive. Woburn already has an overlay district that has reduced that, and we will be using those recommendations as well. So being aware of what impact high hazard has, being aware that there are building codes that will prevent, that will have more restrictions to this type of buildings, and so being within the safe range, obviously, but trying to not affect development in the area. The green buffer as well in here. And also, right now we will be introducing that mixed-use residential district, higher density housing, as already was mentioned. We will be also looking into those dimensional standards. What is the minimum lot size, the minimum frontage, the building coverage, and the landscape open space. Something that I didn't mention last time is that when we did that nonconformity in open space, we got that pretty much the 77% of those lots were not conforming on that one. So the strategy will be to reduce the amount of that percentage of the lot that has to be open space from 30 to 15. That was more or less the average that we saw from each parcel. And those in that 15% have higher standards for the landscape, so that we can have a smaller portion of the lot dedicated to that, but with higher quality, so that the that it will work a lot better, that ecosystem.
Just our last slide on this, we did a similar mock-up for that area of Ryan Road Industrial Parkway, which, you know, could again have that mix of uses between commercial and potentially residential uses there, bringing housing closer to, you know, where people might be working. And with that, I'll just turn it over to Brian from Niche just to go through the infrastructure slides.
Thank you, Eric. To the chair, Brian Creamer with Niche Engineering. Good evening, all. So our role in the team was to support the RKG and team in the city, looking specifically at infrastructure, both transportation and water and sewer, sort of other utilities serving the district. But one of the key observations, and it sort of goes without saying, but I want to make a real clear point of this, the introduction and reopening of the New Boston Street Bridge is significantly going to change the traffic patterns, both on New Boston Street itself, but also on Merrimack up to 38. The cut-through traffic that will come through this new, portion of the city is going to be significant. That bridge has been designed to carry, over 50,000 cars a day. That is nowhere near what it sees today. So some of the strategies we're going to talk about tonight, mitigate the speeds, the long straight sections of the road, but also accommodate the truck traffic, the businesses that are there today, making sure that they have enough space in the roadway because it is quite generous. We also want to make note that the city received some recent grant funding that's going to study and pull together a design for an extension of the pedestrian bridge to connect, obviously, over to Anderson. So this district and area of the city that's been disconnected from transit for the entirety of that station's existence, even though there's some folks that have found ways to cross the tracks there will now have a safe way to cross the tracks. Some of the key pedestrian and cyclists, I recognize that out there today there are not a whole lot of pedestrian and cyclists, but I do want to make sure that the future of this roadway, with all the potential land use changes that you're seeing in the scenarios presented, accommodate for all users, as well as the truck traffic that and vehicular traffic that employees of these businesses use today and will continue to use into the future. So there's some key safety and intersection recommendations that will be further detailed in the report there, but certainly the intersections with 6th Street, in Gill, along New Boston, and then along the entire length of the corridor itself. I want to go through a little bit more detail tonight. So these are some observations just sort of throughout the district, but some illustrative examples of the types of trends that we're seeing. There's very wide curb cuts, long straight sections that contribute to higher speeds, very wide lane widths, which serve two things, right? They help queuing truck traffic or queuing vehicles that can pull off to the side. Even though there's not formal on-street parking, certainly that is a component of many of the businesses and some employees that might park on the street temporarily, even for just loading and unloading. We want to make sure that where the crossings, particularly in the image on the top there, that we're making sure that those crossing distances are appropriate for all modes. So we've pulled together and mocked up a few scenarios that still accommodate truck and vehicular traffic, as well as the increased vehicular traffic that we're anticipating with the new bridge, as well as incorporating more green space within a very wide right-of-way. 50 feet is pretty generous, given what can fit within that space. So these are obviously concepts and can push and pull, but wanted to make sure that the future of that roadway keeps up with the future of the land uses that are being proposed adjacent to it. I want to also point out a few examples and nearby planned projects that are ongoing, as well as some resources that the city could use as it thinks about New Boston Street in the future. Moving left to right, sort of example that we've been utilizing in and around Washington, D.C. Montgomery County, Maryland has a specific guide for industrial streets, working to accommodate both the needs of transit, the needs of the vehicular traffic getting to the industrial businesses, as well as all other modes. A local example of this, in the design phase, I believe they're in 75 going to 100 Hartwell Ave. I imagine many of us are familiar with the development pressures and new development trends in Lexington and Bedford, but certainly a plan that I encourage you to take a deeper dive into. That's a roadway that has a similar right-of-way width that we have on New Boston Street, and obviously is receiving a lot of development pressure as well. And then a more urban example, but one that certainly fits within the right-of-way, and I think speaks to the connections that you're seeing on some of the earlier slides, where New Boston Street itself and the connecting roads. Cypher Street was a dead-end road that had truck queuing traffic, mostly to do with trucks waiting to get in and out of the Flint terminal. This was Massport and Mass Dock connection, as well as the city of Boston, where they extended the road through. Did narrow, but allowed for truck queuing on certain portions of it, as well as designed that bike lane to handle the weight of truck traffic. So early morning, late evening, where less cyclist traffic is anticipated, that could be sort of dual space use. So outside of transportation mobility, we also looked at pretty closely at floodplain, right? This district, as we learned a lot from our tour with Lou, the history of this place is a farm, right? And was for many, many years. It all drains down into Halls Brook, and that all drains from south to north and then back to the east down to the Aberjona. The protection of that natural buffer, right? That the amount of water that's coming off of all the impervious surfaces, the roofs, all makes its way down there. It's all relying on two pretty critical pieces of infrastructure, two culverts that go beneath Merrimack and New Boston Street. So part of the zoning recommendations are to start to think about ways to expand that floodplain capacity, not necessarily pull back buildings, but make sure that there's enough storage of the water so that it's not impacting private land or the public right-of-way. What you're seeing there is some stepped increased buffers from the actual wetland body or the stream itself, Halls Brook, and decreasing development pressure as you get closer to it, with certain incentives that would go towards folks that want to intensify development outside of that portion of their lot. So a little bit more detail is that we're proposing a component which is a 50-foot no disturb that is new to this city, but it will really be limited to this portion of the district to help increase that buffer capacity, as well as a transition zone. What essentially happens in that transition zone is it's incorporating more storage potential for those high-intensity, short-duration storms, those the big cloud bursts that we see 2, 3, 4 inches an hour. We're going to continue to see that this portion of the Halls Brook is quite vulnerable to. So happy to answer any other infrastructure questions, but with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Eric.
I just wanted to thank Mr. President and the council for the time tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. Happy to answer any questions. I think I'm turning it to Director Cashel just to wrap things up.
Thank you.
Thank you all. That was a lot of information for you all to digest. Like the mayor mentioned, these are not set in stone. This was really just a process to get our ideas flowing about what the potential could be for this area. I think we all know the importance of new growth and, ensuring new growth for the city, for our tax base, but also just remaining competitive in our region. I've told you all before, but, we have 3 tools as a city really to do economic development. One is a tax incentive. That's a really powerful tool that we have to use really carefully in the right situation. We can market ourselves as like the best place in the world, but if our zoning and our regulations don't match up with what people want, we're not really marketing the right things. And the third tool would be zoning. That's what we really have full control over. So that's really was the impetus of this study, was to study, our existing zoning, understanding what we can do as a city to be more competitive and put ourselves in a ready position for the next thing that's coming, rather than reacting to property owners or businesses that are coming into town. Let's put ourselves at the front and making ourselves that more welcoming place to do business. John, do you have anything to add?
Good evening, everyone. John Cashel, Planning Director. Few things I want to point out about tonight. A lot of times over the years when planning board members first come on the planning board, they get this idea that we're just a permit granting body. And a lot of times the newer planners will say, when do we actually do anything like planning? When do we get into planning for the future of a city? The city of Woburn, whatever town you're in. And this has been an incredible opportunity for the city of Woburn. When we first started this process, I'm like, it's been years since, I was able to engage from the beginning a planning study. Actually, when I left Woburn in 2001, at the end of 2001, I was able to give a speech, a farewell speech to the city council. And I was giving that speech relative to this area of the city and recognizing then, as everybody that knows Woburn, this is the industrial park, the original North Woburn Industrial Park that was under the jurisdiction of the Woburn Redevelopment Authority. Over the years, this park was built out, and it probably took 15 years for it to build out, a few years to put all the infrastructure in place. So here we are, 23 years later, or actually it's 25 years later now, since I left in 2001, and we have this opportunity, and we've conducted this initial review of the existing industrial park, trying to get it ready for a better future, an enhanced future, a future that will produce a lot more revenue for the city of Woburn going forward, produce more jobs, hopefully a good balance of multifamily development. If we don't have multifamily development or a good supply of housing, we really can't attract the employment base that we need to continue growing our economy. So I just want to go through some fun facts that I believe, Casey, you put these together. Just so you know, the area we're talking about is 250 acres. It isn't 2,000. It isn't 1,000. It's 250 acres. That's the size of that industrial park. Right now, there are 115 parcels within that acreage. There are 84 property owners. One of the biggest, and the biggest in Woburn, is Cummings Properties. So they own a good portion of the land within this industrial park. Right now, there are 5,000 employees within that park, and that park generates, or has an assessed value of $341 million. I look into the future all the time and have witnessed Woburn, its growth over my entire lifetime, because I've lived here. But as the planner for the city for 17 years, from 85 to 2001, and here I am back 23 years later, it is a time warp there. But one thing for sure, this city has always grown during that period of time. It grows in spurts with the economy. It slows down when the economy slows. But Woburn, everybody knows about real estate. It's location, location, location. And we perhaps have one of the best locations in Massachusetts, if not New England, at the corner, crossroads of 128 and 93. You couldn't ask for any more traffic volume. So we do have the location. We do have the potential, and certain potential, of continuing to grow. The council, you guys always have to review new proposals. You're the primary permit granting authority for the city. You guys, you 9 people, permit most of the stuff. I think you do a really good job of review, critiquing, and conditioning the permits that do come before you. And that's all important stuff. What this study is going to result in is a lot more work. This is the end of the beginning. Now we have to get our sleeves rolled up and start thinking about what modifications are necessary zoning-wise so that we can accommodate the future that's bound to come before us. Again, in spurts and slow points. But right now, there's so much going on in that area of the city and beyond the boundaries of this industrial park. And I just look at it as a planner. There's a real exciting future for Woburn. We really haven't seen anything yet when I look into the future myself and envision what Woburn can become. So if anybody has any questions.
Questions from the council? Oh, go ahead. Madam Clerk.
Can I get the presentations different from the one I have? Thank you. That's all I want to ask. Thank you.
Councilor Demers.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation tonight. That was eye-opening a little bit in terms of having an outside look at what we're doing and what we can do differently. One of the thoughts that I had was, in the proposed changes, when we're renaming things and calling them different types of districts, so like an innovation district, if we were to go that far in changing our zoning to fit under that phraseology or that terminology or what is generally accepted within industries abroad, does that trigger any access to any type of stimulus like approaches from the state with any of the state agencies or quasi-public agencies that may be able to do those tax incentives rather than us relying on the taxpayer of Woburn to front the cost of the incentive?
I would say it's a definite possibility. In case
The state recently, in the last Mass Leads Act, the last economic development bill, did change the way tax incentives are done, so it doesn't actually require local buy-in anymore. But having something like that or having the base layer in place would make a stronger case when a company went to apply for it. Also, just in terms of grants, MassWorks grants, Housing Work grants, MBTA Catalyst grants, they want to see the zoning in place before they issue the grant for the infrastructure upgrades.
Right.
Like, they don't like speculative
Yep.
chicken and egg situation. They want to see
Sure.
the zoning in place.
Yeah, no, I just want to, will this open an avenue up for
Yes.
us to access a lot more than we have before?
Yes.
Is what I'm asking. A bit of a leading question because I kind of had an idea that that was the case. When it comes to, discussions about possible increases in zoning for housing, I mean, that's the third rail across the Commonwealth right now, whether you want it or you don't. And I think one of the questions I have we looked at, or during this study, it's great to say that, oh, there are these units, there are these many units over here, there are these many units over here, but do we have an idea of what the actual occupancy of a lot of these, apartment complexes or the larger ones like Avalon or Fairfield? Are we able to access what their occupancies are to show, do we really need more housing, or are our residents or people wanting to move here priced out because they're more luxury and they're not affordable to the average citizen?
I personally haven't heard of an overabundance of housing. Everything that's been built in recent years is fully occupied. In the Vale, we got some information recently. I think they were pretty close to full occupancy and sales of existing residents over there. And Pulte is looking strongly at the potential for the Del Webb development. And a company such as Pulte really wouldn't even look at a site unless they thought the demand was there. Again, Woburn has that location, especially at the Vale. You're 10 miles outside of Boston.
Right, I just think the
Yeah.
general concern amongst most people that contact me when we're discussing possible increases in housing or rezoning in certain areas for housing is if somebody from Acton is going to move to Woburn, that does not help a resident in Woburn. And it's something that I'm hearing more and more and more because I've looked at what some of these places are charging. And I go, I do all right for myself. I work for the state. I make a good wage. I probably couldn't afford one of those places. So I think there's that concern because people see us enhancing our housing stock, but it's not being benefited by the residents of Woburn. It's people moving in and filling those places. And most of them are considered, luxury apartments where, the prices are not going to go down when there's people willing to pay that.
I'd like to address it first in a historical perspective. In 1989, it was the first severe housing bust, and everybody was building housing. People were becoming developers overnight, and all of a sudden, there was too much housing being built, and the market just busted. And it was I remember the actual day it happened, but it was April 1989. And that severe housing bust lasted in Woburn, in this region, until 93. In other parts of New England, it lasted into 94, 95. What happened was everything bottomed out. And the people that really know what they're doing, real estate development-wise, bought the bottom, strongly the bottom, and bounced the market right up. The '07 market, and I think there was one in '03. There was, a collapse of the real estate market. And nothing like the '89 to '93 market has happened since. We've had these little crashes of real estate bubbles. And they've been bouncing back like they're on a trampoline. And just
My concern is it kind of almost mirrors or parallels what we've been talking about life sciences recently.
yeah.
And
I mean,
I see in this proposal, we have high-intensity life science uses.
yeah.
We've been told in other hearings that life science bubble burst after COVID, when there was no more need for all these, massive amounts of vaccines to be produced. And now we're looking at our life science market that's saturated out here. There's really not, there's not people coming out of Cambridge like it was about 8 years ago. So if we're talking about zoning up there for high-intensity life sciences, but we're hearing in other hearings, I'm just concerned that we don't want to over-rely on things that we're specifically being told by the industry that,
Yeah, and I think that was put in there to just allow for it if the market does change, rather than be reactionary. We're
Okay.
just trying to think ahead, what could be the next trend. If there's a bounce back, we'd be ready for it.
because I'm all for diversifying our zoning in terms of opening it up to things that we've never had before. I mean, most of these have been piecemeal amended since 1985 when the zoning book was put together. So I do like the outside-the-box approaches. I'm just, it's one of those things where we want to make sure that we're looking at areas of least impact on the residents, because when I see some of those high-story buildings, I know Councilor DeMambro is right there, but then I also know that my constituents are on the other side of School Street. So it's just having looked at that and seeing where we're going, I guess my final question would be like, what's next?
Well, just to really emphasize that high-density development that is part of this study, that was injected into the study, really thinking outside the box.
Sure.
Having a vision that, we wouldn't have, running around in our minds, because we're always worried about traffic and, adverse impacts to the neighborhoods. And there is a substantial residential neighborhood that abuts this area. What we've always been cognizant of and talked about before presenting this study tonight is that, we really have to be aware of that residential area, and that whatever goes on within the industrial park in the future respects the quality of life of those residents, and that, we're going to do our best as we move forward in the development of the city, to protect the quality of life of the residents. We don't want to inundate them with
Sure.
terrible traffic. Go ahead.
In terms of what's next, we're looking for feedback from the council about what they like, what they don't like, this part from scenario 1, this part from scenario 3. And then, John and I, working with you all, want to come back with some really targeted zoning amendments.
Perfect.
That would be the ideal next step. And we're going to be seeking some additional grant funding to, further, this is not at the zoning amendment level. We want to get it to that next level.
You said the magic words. Thank you.
Good. Yep. Councilor Viola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, everybody, for the presentation tonight. It was really insightful. One thing that I will not vote in favor of is any biolab level 3s in the city. There's 9 in the state. I don't think Woburn needs one, especially being that close to residential areas, plus putting first responders at risk. I mean, biolab level 3s are pathogens that cause serious or lethal diseases. So I don't think that there's any room for that in the city.
Yeah, so we won't propose it. If we're not getting buy-in from the councilors, that won't be proposed. But we just wanted to throw ideas out there.
Thank you.
Councilor DeMambro.
So we all know that this is my ward, and we all know that this has been, beacon of the conversation for probably a better part of now 20 years, how to revamp and refurbish and rejuvenate that area. I appreciate everybody's hard work on this. But I'm also a little concerned with, they say they're looking at the market, but when I look at, what they have proposed, or, just giving, ideas, there's high rises here. We're starting to see that the commercial market is pretty flat. It's pretty stagnant. from the Del Webb City Committee, City Council Committee meeting last week. They said there's 18 million square feet of commercial real estate that's available. Approximately 1.5 million of it is being occupied. You can drive around, again, New Boston Street, Industrial Parkway. There's an abundance of for lease signs currently. There are 3, 4, 5, and 6-story buildings in that industrial park currently, many of which are not, fully occupied. They then said that the industry is now coming back. Well, that's what this park is. It's an industrial park. It was built back from 68, 1970, right up until now. I've always said smart growth. I think we should take an opportunity to look at that area, a really, really, really microscopic look, and not worry about condensing and having more open space, but to go higher. It doesn't make sense to me to consolidate a building's portfolio at the foundation level, but to go up 7, 8 stories, 200 feet from residential homes. Because then you're going to be sitting on your back deck and you're going to be looking at people sitting at their computers in an office building. And I don't think that's the right move for the residents along the School Street corridor or Merrimack Street corridor. There hasn't been a very good buffer since they built that back in 68, 70. There's never been a good buffer. And the buffer that's there is, quite frankly, no good. It's full of weeds and trees and vines. It hasn't been maintained or manicured in probably the better part of 40 years. So, that's a fallacy. So if you were to go up, you're going to start seeing even more and more industry and with the echo and noise bouncing off those buildings. I think we need to maintain the 1.5, 2-story scenario that exists down there now, especially when it's right beside a residential neighborhood, i.e. School Street, which I live on. Anybody would like to come to 210 School Street, look at my backyard, you look at 7 to 9 buildings. Along with that, I've said it numerous times on this council, you hear the clanging, the banging of dock plates. You hear trucks. You hear dumpsters. You hear dumpsters getting emptied at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You hear plows, with backup beepers all night long plowing those parking lots. You also hear car alarms and everything else that goes along with it. And most importantly, the robust aroma of diesel fumes that come up over that hill. I don't think shrinking a buffer zone to a lesser amount is any beneficial for the residents. I almost want to see a little bit wider buffer zone just so that they can have more of a break. I think we have an opportunity up there for advanced technologies. I also feel that with that scenario, we have to look at the infrastructure and the upgrades that are desperately needed in that area, that have probably been needed up in that area for better part of 25, 30 years, due to the progress that's already occurred and that's already existing. We need everything from water, sewer, drainage, gas, power. We need it all up there. I'm not necessarily sure how that plays in. I don't think focusing on a bike lane is where we should be at. The New Boston Street corridor only has a sidewalk on one side. We've been trying to get a second sidewalk on the other side forever. It's never happened. So we're kind of skipping over what we never accomplished in the first part. So I really think there are parts of scenario 1 and there's parts of scenario 2. I think that makes sense for that area, that park. I think scenario 3 is, I'm a no-go on, and I will fight scenario 3. I think scenario 3 is too much. The apartment component, we just spent a better part of 2 or 3 years working on the MBTA 3A for the Anderson Station, for 2,300 apartments, due to it was a state mandated thing that Mayor Concanon and the rest of us had to work on. We've implemented that zoning. We haven't heard anything about what's going on down there. There's no RFPs. There's nothing going on down there. They don't even know, between the MBTA, the Massport, and Mass DOT what they want to do down there, even though we did the zoning. So I'm not necessarily sure that is a component we want to put in here. I think we want to focus more on industry. I think we want to focus on businesses that'll take advantage of a 1 and 2 story scenario. I think that's where we should be focused, because they come in with a low footprint. They might take up 80 to 100,000 square feet of a facility, but there may only be 12 people working in there. I think we want to kind of focus more on that, as well as there are opportunities up in that area to have a tear down. You could probably tear some of those old buildings down, and especially the old tin ones. There is great opportunity there, and I see it clear as day. But along with that, I also see all the infrastructure upgrades that are desperately needed in that area. So, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you do the infrastructure upgrades? I would like to see that probably put in the forefront. I would like to see more focus on that, upgrading everything up there, so that if there comes a time when one of the buildings should take and sell, a developer decides, you know what, we're going to tear it down, we're going to spread it out, we're going to make it this way, that way, to accommodate a data center. Okay, fine. But in order for that data center to come in there, they're going to need the power to power it up. And we don't have that currently. So I appreciate everybody's work on this. I know this is probably going to go back and forth to committee, and I'm sure my colleagues and I, we're going to have a lot of discussion on this in the months to come. But again, those are my thoughts as of now. But I appreciate everybody's time on this. Thank you.
Council Papalato?
Thank you. It was a great presentation. It's really exciting stuff, and it's been a long time coming. I know a lot of work has gone into this by a lot of people for a long time. We're starving for commercial properties, so I think this is a huge push in the right direction here. I worry about the pieces when you're talking about commercial. I was a little caught off guard by the commercial component, as were others, I think. So can you give us some thoughts on that process of why you're picking residential in there? Are they condos, are they apartments, are they single-family, double-family homes? Give us some detail around what your vision is on that.
Again, I have to emphasize, and everybody on the team that did this study, we put that in there as an idea to be explored, not as a dictated idea whatsoever. It's in the study as a possibility, and it will take further work to decide on, whether or not this industrial park will include a residential component of any size or scale. So that's all up in the air. It's just ideas in this study. That's all it is. Thinking outside the box. We didn't want to come in just saying, well, we need a few zoning changes to accommodate innovative technologies that we really don't know that'll be attracted. Like when you say data centers, well, the most recent data center information is that data centers require a lot of power, much more so than any other industry out there. And they're going to be encouraged to build their own power plants, whether they're micro nuclear power plants or they're gas-fired power plants. They're going to be encouraged to build their own power sources in order to locate, in a state like Massachusetts, which has one of the highest power rates in the country and costs of power. We're not a very attractive location for a data center as opposed to Oklahoma or Texas. There's much lower energy costs, and you can have data centers there that draw a lot of energy and require a lot of energy to locate. And Massachusetts really doesn't look like a state that's going to draw that type of industry in any large scale. There's probably going to be, smaller micro data centers. But that's stuff in the future. We don't know how much energy we're going to be able to save with the energy sources that are being worked on. So, again, with an innovative industrial park zoned and the zoning put in place, the only thing we can do is anticipate what might be coming down the pike to enhance Woburn's revenue production within this industrial park. You know,
Because we were initially just looking at scenario 1 and 2, and we're having this great meeting down in engineering and drawing, and, we challenged them, what would a live, work, play region kind of look like, just so we could all have the conversation. We didn't want to cross anything out immediately. We wanted to just leave it all up for interpretation.
Yep. I mean, I think it was well thought out, and you got a lot of different options there. But from when you asked our likes and dislikes, that would fall under the dislike column for me.
Got it.
Thank you.
and there are a lot of live, work, play environments within the city of Woburn, within the industrial park. When you go along Commerce Way, over the last 10, 15 years, city has allowed for a lot of multifamily. And that's what's anticipated as a potential with the RTC future development. There is an RFP out on that. You're aware of that. Yeah.
Just on the infrastructure too, they kind of alluded to it in some of the slides, but there are some creative funding mechanisms that the city could explore, like district incremental financing, if we wanted to, look at doing serious infrastructure upgrades. That's similar to a TIF, but you do it regionally, and that goes reinvested right back into the defined district. So, there are different creative ways that we can look at this too. Once we kind of fine tune some of the zoning and get that in place.
Councilor Dillon?
Thank you, President. Very well done presentation. When I was reviewing it, when it was emailed to me, I had a list of questions. A lot of them were taken care of during the presentation. Councilor Demers, thank you, took care of the life science question for me. So I'm down to a couple, maybe 3. The first one, I would like to see John and Casey, I know you work very hard at keeping in contact with the companies that are here now. The companies that are actually here now in that location, and the ability, they're so busy they want to grow. I'd really like to see us even be more cooperative, helpful to them. I know the consultant spoke about things that hold back a company from growing in a particular area. Commuting, I'm hoping maybe the new bridge will help that. Housing, we have a great amount of apartments there, though be it how affordable they are, I understand that. Maybe there are things coming down the pike as far as commuting in our community that will help that. So, I know Casey and you, John, work very closely and with the good communication with the companies that are already there, and perhaps us as a city council need to even get more involved and make us a little bit more user-friendly in that aspect. So this is all great, but I see the ability that we can do something quickly with that aspect of it. The next point I'm going to make is when we talk about housing, we really are limited apartments, condos, and single families. I don't think single families are in the picture there. We talk about condos, perhaps. I think we have enough apartments there already. And when I think of apartments, I think of kids, and I think of schools. And I know we have members of the school committee here with us tonight, and we're looking at the proposal of a new elementary school. And I think we have to really look at other alternatives rather than apartments out there. Do we have an idea of how many apartments, any unit count, we're just talking general?
You guys just generalize, yeah.
General.
Just in general, and just really as an idea.
And I'm going to take this a little further. Today, in the Boston Herald, was a great article on the cost of building a new school. Revere and Lexington noted in it. And let me tell you, I read that article, and at times I wish I wasn't reading it. The cost is unbelievable. So that's my input on the housing aspect of it. And the last thing I was going to do, I already touched on it, about us as a city council, just communication, whatever we can do. I don't want to see a company that's growing in that area now saying, well, I need to add so many more square feet, but I like the location, but I can do it cheaper because of a number of reasons. Whatever wedge, leverage, whatever we can do, let's reach out to them and let's keep the communication going.
I just want to say, in that regard, to answer your question, Casey does an extraordinary job reaching out to the businesses. And Mayor Concanon is a real partner in that also. We almost every day we're working with businesses, trying to make sure that they have the ability to stay in Woburn, whether they're, they need to expand, and trying to locate them on a site that it's conducive to their business. We're constantly doing that. And there's some really exciting stuff
And I see you
going on.
guys doing it, and I appreciate that. But when the consultant said that they were out there visiting and actually physically entering the businesses, maybe in the next part of the presentation, something that's, instead of a long-range fix, that's something we can address right now and try to secure a few of these that are thinking of leaving.
To that point, this doesn't have to be a long-term project that we wait 4 years to implement all at once. What we're doing, let me say this first, if I could. What we're not doing tonight, what's not happening tonight, you don't have a petition in front of you from me or from planning or from some outside consultants or from a petitioner who's asking you to vote up or down on a thing. You do not have a thing in front of you tonight. When I started this presentation earlier, I said, really, this is like a conversation starter. We've taken a really deep look at what currently exists, and we've started the process, we've started the discussion on what could be. We will determine that. So again, this isn't me saying to you, hey, I'd like you to vote yes or no on this thing. There is no thing in front of you. Even the 3 scenarios you have are just components of possible menu items that were cobbled together to give you an idea of what could be. There could be 33 more scenarios. There could be 303 more scenarios. If we do anything to change North Woburn, we're going to do it together. So it's not, we're not going to go back and scribble on pencils and come back 3 months later and present an idea to you. We together are going to have to do this. These are going to be either incremental zoning changes or approaches to attracting businesses, or it could be that this group, this collective group, comes up with a long-term plan and we have steps along the way that get us there. But whatever we do, we're going to do it together. So, and I've sat where you sit. Most of the time, you wait until somebody presents something to you, and you chew on it, and you debate it, and you go back and forth, then you vote yes or no. That's not what this is. This is really, like we said earlier, a lot of work. This is homework for all of us. And we'll only do what we all want to do. So I don't want anyone to feel like we're trying to get you, like to side with us on some idea on whether it's housing or biolabs or buffer zones. These are just ideas that we're throwing out on the table, and a group of us are going to go through and pick the ones we think work best and discard the ones we think won't work best for Woburn. So that's what I was hoping to accomplish in the table setting at the beginning, but I at least wanted to wrap up with that so we understand what we're doing here collectively. And I look forward to working with all of you on this because I think there is an opportunity to do some really good things up there, short-term, medium-term, long-term. Again, this is our chance to put our stamp as a body, as a group, as a community, on the collective vision for that section of the city. So thank you very much.
I'm good. Thank you, President.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to return to the regular order of business.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion that the matter be received and placed on file.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion for a 5-minute recess?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll return in 5 minutes. The regular order of
Oh.
business. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Ready?
Motion
Next
carries.
item- Next item on the agenda are new petitions and NHC Realty Inc. Cummings Foundation at 21 Warren Ave.
Make a motion that the matter be referred to a public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to take the next matter out of order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
This is
carries.
for the order that the school, city council meet with representatives from the school committee for the status report on school issues.
Thank you. Just for my fellow councilors and the general public, this is something that Chair Cormier and I have talked about doing. Just having them come up to give us an operational or status update on the schools. With the schools being the largest driver of our budget every single year, I feel like it's a good opportunity, or we both feel like it's a good opportunity for the schools to give us some updates and for the councils to ask any questions. So without further
I'll
ado,
make a motion to suspend the rules to allow a representative from the schools or school committee to speak.
thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Superintendent Crowley, Chair Cormier.
Thank you for having us, everyone.
Our
We
pleasure.
have sort of a mid-year.
Could you just identify yourself
I'm
for
sorry.
the record?
Hi,
Thank you.
I'm Colleen Cormier, Chair to the Woburn School Committee, 9 Mill Terrace.
Oh, I'm Matt Crowley, Superintendent of the Woburn Public Schools.
And this is a mid-year update to the council on what's been going on in the Woburn Public Schools. So if we can provide you with a handout.
Sure.
And, or I can-
I thank you.
I'll wait for my motion, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Make a motion to receive the paper and make it part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ready? Good evening. In front of you, I did prepare a presentation because what I did initially start doing was just making a list of all the stuff that's going on in the Woburn Public Schools, and I really just was trying to harness, to the extent that I could, some of the highlights for you. President Toro alluded to this. We've done this. I've done this in the past and come to the council typically just to provide an update, mid-year update, without any budget requests, without any funding asks or anything, but just to give you some context of where we are. And so that's really what the intent of tonight is for us. So I start by just saying thank you. We are having a great year in the Woburn Public Schools. The biggest challenge really has been the weather. And I think we've had 4 snow days and it's been record-setting cold. And so really looking forward to getting students back outside at recess and getting to and from school safely. But I start with that because the partnership is there with the city as well. And so publicly, I want to thank the DPW for their work in collaboration with the facilities team and the Woburn Public Schools. And again, it's been a long winter. I think we're all ready for the spring. So it is all about the students. I really do think that I have the best job in the city of Woburn because I can interact with so many different students and staff every day. I will tell you that the Friday visits, the whatever people call them, we call them the Matt and Mike meet. We have a 9:30 standing meeting, as you may know, at our schools, and many of you have had the opportunity to join us, and I really think it's the highlight, it speaks to me as the highlight of the week, and part of it is the principals are always excited to share what's going on in their schools. The staff are great, and the kids always wonder who we are, and we get asked quite a bit. I was asked today, actually, I was at the Reeves, if I was a famous YouTuber by a little person. I don't know what that means, but anyway, it was, it's great. So with that being said, I will continue to extend the invite to you. Again, it's Fridays at 9:30. We don't have one this Friday because we have a scheduled budget meeting this Friday, but the following Friday will be at the Alta Vesta, and so please feel free to join. With that, I do know that some of you can't do Fridays at 9:30 because of work schedules, but if there's something that you want to see on a different day or time, please reach out. I'm happy to try to accommodate you. I do know that some of you have gone with Dr. Maureen Ryan to look more specifically at our special education programs. Anyone on my team is happy to meet with you and facilitate an opportunity to go see your investment at work. Speaking of investments, FY26 dash FY27, the analogy I use is we are trying to land FY26 right now and get ready to take off on FY26, or 27 rather. And so we are heavy into the budgeting process. I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 or 9, I think, with the principals to continue to review and refine our FY27 budget. The FY26 budget, we are in good shape, so thank you for fully funding our FY26 budget. It matters. And so I again, am appreciative to work in a city that invests so heavily into our staff and students. I would be remiss if I didn't say that we're in year 2 of the monthly WooStat meetings that had come up a couple years ago. And so those are the third Wednesdays of the month. And just, again, an opportunity to share where we are with the budget and try to project what our needs might be moving forward. So, again, collaborative spirit here. I hope that you are getting my Friday weekly updates, and I'm doing that intentionally just to kind of give you context. It's not every detail of what happens, but it's an opportunity really just to share the success and the realities of what's happening in our schools. So, and I hope they're helpful to you. If there's something missing or if you wanted to see something, please let me know, and I will do my best to accommodate that. I have here as a talking point WTA/SEIU/staff. I just wanted to say thank you to our teachers, our members of the WTA. We have a very collaborative relationship. I meet monthly with the leadership of the WTA to kind of work through any potential issues that we call at a JLMC. And again, Christy Nickerson is the president, as you know. I had a call with her tonight at 6:30. So that relationship is going well. And the other, the SEIU are all of the other, the secretarial, custodian, et cetera, units. And I'm appreciative of their leadership. And so I wanted to say that, and as a reminder, put that. I also want to just thank my leadership team. The 10 principals, I think, do a great job. I was at the high school basketball game earlier. Tom Quayle is finishing nearly year 1, full year as principal. He's doing a really nice job. He was unable to help the girls team win tonight. Spoiler alert, they did lose in the state tournament, second round tonight. But the principal group is great, and my entire leadership team is terrific. And so I wouldn't be able to do the job without the support of so many talented educators. So I want to acknowledge that. So who are the 2025, 2026 students? I just pulled for you the DESE public-facing document. This is taken from our October report, and so the numbers that are here today are not exact to the extent that we do have people coming and going. I would highlight for you that our enrollment is down this year. The biggest decrease is at the high school, where approximately 70 students reduced at the high school and approximately 40 students at both of the middle schools. So It is a trend that's not just a Woburn trend. It's a statewide trend, but we, like everywhere else, follow typically the state trends. But that is a reality. I just, full disclosure, I want to share that with you. The thing that I did want to point out here is the selected populations and the high needs on the right-hand side, that bar. So 57.3% of our students are considered high needs. And what does that mean? It means that they are either low income, which is 39.6%. They are either low income students with disabilities, which is approximately 25%. It actually is over 25% now. Or they are our English learners, our ML learners. It is possible that you can have a student on an IEP that is multilingual, doesn't speak English, and is poor. So students can fit into multiple buckets at the same time. With that being said, nearly 60% of our kids fall into that category. And so when we walk through schools and see what teaching and learning looks like, it is much different than when I went to school, and probably when you went to school. But the students are different and challenging. And so again, I credit the staff, the conversations that I'm having with teachers. 20 students in a class is a challenging number of kids, because you can have 4 of your students who don't speak English, 4 of your students on IEPs, and you have then 12 other students that you're trying to navigate. And so we are genuinely working very hard to meet those needs. And I think we see it on the Fridays, but I want to highlight that the needs are real. With that being said, the staff are taking care of our kids, and I feel it's a responsibility to take care of our staff. And so we've created this district hub, we call it, but it's an online resource that if staff have questions or need something, they can go on our website and access things in real time, and to try to support them to make their jobs as easy as possible outside the classroom so that they can do what's important inside the classroom. We have a new hire paperwork as one of the hubs. A lot of our hiring processes are now online, which has been great. We have an HR department now, which has built. We now have 2 people in it, but we are able to try to meet the needs of the staff in real time and onboard people in real time so that we can get adults in front of our kids. The next slide, really what I wanted to, again, just to say thank you, is you invested in a new math curriculum for us last year that we are implementing this year, and it's going really, really well. It's called Reveal Math, is what we refer to it as, but what it will do is allow us to have the same math curriculum K-12. And so the elementary schools, it's year 1, the middle schools will adopt it next year, and the high schools in year 1. So again, the same math program, K-12, and hopefully will pay dividends. One of the things when we do walk around with students and see students is to ask them, how is the math program going? On the right-hand side, in the upper corner, it says Alex, and so that's not Alex Dizio. But that's the name of the software program that is attached to Reveal Math. And really what it does is allows students, we test the students to determine where they are, and then the students are able to work individually at their level. And it's the equivalent of Lexia, for those of you that are familiar with our reading program that does the same kind of thing. And so what happens when we walk through classrooms, you can see 3 different groups of elementary students. One group with teachers, or a teacher, one group working on a Chromebook, and another group working independently on math problems. And so the implementation has gone well. We did a pilot last year, and that worked out really well because we now have coaches, teachers at every school that can help their colleagues as they adopt this new curriculum. And so, again, thank you for investing in that. We've established instructional leadership teams at all of our schools this year. They meet twice a month when possible, and really what they're doing is looking at data, and it's co-led. The principal co-leads it with teachers or curriculum coordinators, and they look at data to make decisions about the school, because what we know is that the principal can't just say, here's what we're going to do, and it gets done. And so having this shared responsibility, this collaborative teaming has gone really well. And again, we are grateful to our staff for making it work. I think all of our kids care so much about, I'm saying that backwards, all of our staff care so much about our kids. But when you look at the data, you're able to say, okay, geez, we really need to focus in on reading, or we need to focus in on algebraic expressions, or, so we drill into the data in that way. And so it varies a little bit by school what the priorities are, but all schools have a protocol that they follow, and all schools do have their ILTs. So again, a highlight this year. Another new update for this year is we've revamped our mentor program. We are mandated by the state to have a mentoring program, which we've had. But this year, with the collaborative nature of the WTA, we co-own the mentoring program. So every new teacher is assigned a mentor for their first 3 years. And to the extent possible, we will assign a mentor who actually either teaches the same subject or is in the same building, and so that there's real-time access beyond, just how do I get a key, or it's about how can I become a better educator. One of the things that all of our new teachers are doing is a course called Research for Better Teaching, and so they are being it's a professional development course that is offered and now required of new staff. We have existing teachers who we offer to, and they are taking it because the feedback has been so positive. And so, again, a credit to the growth mindset of our team. This one's great. We have, well, they're all great. Sorry, I shouldn't, it's like picking my favorite child. But the early college, students at Woburn Memorial High School can graduate with college credits for free. That's really what this comes down to. We've established a partnership with UMass Lowell where we co-teach classes with a professor from Lowell in the high school. And so students can graduate with up to 12 credits for free, again, and they're transferable right into any UMass or community college. And so we've expanded it. Next year, we're going to have 12 classes available to students, and they're available to any student. And so we're trying to break down the barrier of opportunity for our kids. This came about, I was in a conversation with the chancellor at UMass Lowell a couple years ago about expanding access to our students. Some of this is also, we are arranged for students to go up to UMass Lowell to take a field trip to see what college is like. And whether they choose to attend or not, we want the opportunity present for our students. And so, again, Kim Gustenhoven, who's our STEM coordinator, will be actually doing a presentation March 10th at the school committee meeting, and a rep from UMass Lowell is going to come as well. So it's a lot of time and energy and effort, but again, not every student is going to go to college, but we want to make sure that they have the exposure and opportunity if they so choose. Outside the classroom, arts and culture. The best Saturday, I think, in Woburn is the Tanner Fest at the high school, so that's usually in May. And we celebrate all K-12 arts and music. And you've done an investment in the arts and music program over the past few years, and it's paying off. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see any of the musicals or watch any of the performances. They're great. And so we've also expanded down, so elementary students are able to get music lessons, and then the middle school band is a real thing. And so again, providing opportunities to students to engage. What I know is that students that engage with anything outside the class typically do better inside the class. And so that's an important priority. Our athletic teams, you might have seen the wrestling team recently. That was really cool. I think I did share that video when they won for the first time in the 25 years, I believe. And Caitlin Castaldi, she's our school committee rep. And so I think this is why she's the state champ, but what a great young woman. I walked in with her dad, and he was just so proud of her, and as well he should be. But our kids, our athletes are doing well. Mr. Duran will also be at the March 10th meeting with some of the student athletes. I gave you that the girls basketball team tonight did lose, unfortunately, to Needham. The boys hockey team made it to the state tournament, but they lost on Saturday. They outshot Concord 44-8 and lost 2-1. It was a great game. They just couldn't get the puck in the net. Our girls, I gave you the boys hockey team and our girls basketball, wrestling. We've had a great winter season. The conversation at the high school prior to coming here, spring sports start in 2 weeks, so hopefully the snow melts. So if I don't have any control over that, but that is a real question mark. And the other thing I just wanted to highlight is our continued partnerships with so many organizations. I chose the YMCA and, of course, the Boys and Girls Club. They do so much work before and after the Bell programs with our kids. Julie Gage at the Boys and Girls Club is an excellent partner. I host meetings there at the club, and I will tell you that when people from outside Woburn come to the club, they are blown away. When you say, let's have a meeting at the Boys and Girls Club, they're always incredibly impressed. And so to the credit to the city of Woburn, but great partnerships exist. Our special populations, I alluded to this a little bit earlier. We've developed over the past couple of years an assessment center, and that's housed at the Linscott. And really what it does is allows for particularly elementary students who present with significant special education needs a place to go for up to 45 days to be assessed to see what program they might be best served in. Oftentimes now, we've built it so that students are able to stay in district. And as you know from the budgetary side, that's an important, obviously, driver of our budget. And so, very grateful for that support. I asked Dr. Ryan earlier, I think our percent is hovering closer to 25.67% now of students who are on IEPs. So it's a pretty significant percent of our students. The SEAM Collaborative is an organization it's right out just over the line in Stoneham. We are one of 11 member districts. We're the heaviest user of the SEAM Collaborative, which is it's a good thing because we pay the member rate, and so we are saving money on out-of-district placements because of that. The SEAM 14 to 22 life skills program opened up here in Woburn. It's on 10 Gill Street. It's a Cummings property. That just opened this year. And so I'm hoping to arrange for a tour there because the students wind up getting dismissed and then doing work study in the afternoon. It's a really great program. So again, grateful for the collaborative relationship with Dr. Kathy Lawson's the executive director. She does a really, really nice job. And then our ML learners that I was speaking to earlier is approximately 14% of our student population. Just for context, when I came in 2015, it was 5%. So incredible growth over the past 10 years. Our largest languages spoken are Portuguese, followed by Spanish, and then Haitian Creole. And so Rania Caldwell, who's our director of ML, did a presentation to the school committee recently, and we are doing everything we possibly can to support our challenging but really, really important young students. We are in full compliance with DESE. So DESE came, and we do every 6 years it's called a tiered focus monitoring, and they look at different parts of our school system, special education, and the ML program, and then make recommendations on things to improve. And so they did make recommendations, and we've improved, and we are now in full compliance. So that's a significant share. Thank you.
Because when Ms. Caldwell started with the Woburn Public Schools, we were out of compliance, and when she came to us and they announced that, I did not know what we were going to do about it. And I was quite surprised, pleasantly surprised, when she announced to us that we are now in full compliance. So thank you for your investments, because that's part of it. Our capital improvements this year, a lot of you were there, but the Malcolm White Playground, thank you, thank you, thank you. It hasn't been in much use recently because of the weather, but it was getting a ton of use up until the weather changed. But again, appreciate that. We've expanded the Goodyear parking lot this year, which may not seem like a huge thing, but the reality is that staff and visitors need a place to park when they go to the Goodyear. We did the same thing last year at the Malcolm White with the new parking area there. Again, trying to make it better for everybody. Mr. Burnham's done a nice job of finding and paving potholes to the extent that he can keep up. I'm sure there'll be more to do this spring. We are now a fully one-to-one district, and so that what that means is every student in the Woburn Public Schools has a device. Our little people, the K1, use iPads because they can't necessarily use a keyboard yet. They don't bring them home. But with that happening this year, we are now able to offer all of our students a device. So again, an investment. The Shamrock roof is in the queue for this upcoming summer. So that is an exciting, it is exciting to get a new roof. It's not as exciting as a playground, but we need to continue to maintain our facilities. What that necessitates on our side operationally is our ESY, our extended school year, will move from the Shamrock to the Reeves for this year because we can't have the new roof going on at the same time that we have students in the building. And I would be remiss to not say thank you about school security. The past couple years, there have been some investments in school security, and we have been able to rekey and put new locks on 4 of our buildings. We also have a collaborative citywide security task force, if you will, and we're looking at additional ways to make sure that our kids and staff, when they come to our schools, are as safe as we possibly can. So again, all of these things cost money, and so I'm not here to ask for money. I'm here to just tell you thank you. I do think that the school district and the city of Woburn is lucky. I talked to many of my colleagues who are really facing some other challenges, and so am grateful to serve here in Woburn.
happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilor Dillon?
Thank you, President. Under your 2025-26 enrollment, Dr. Crowley, just for my knowledge and perhaps folks at home, the low income, what is the definition? How do you get to that point? Is it an income that you gauge it on? Is it? Help me.
So I'm actually going to have to get back to you with more specific, but it's based on income. Yes. Mm-hmm.
My second question, I think I heard, and maybe you can explain it for me, is that are we seeing a less of an overcrowding situation throughout the schools? And maybe we're seeing, when we say we need more space, is it more space for paraprofessional working with a specific child? You see where I'm going with this?
I do. Yeah, so really, we still have a capacity issue, a space issue. And so part of that, respectfully, is the numbers have gone down, but we still need rooms for our ML students, for our special education students. So when some of the buildings were built, they didn't build with those special programs in mind. And so that is part one. Part two is our preschool has expanded rapidly as well. So we are up to 13 preschool classes, 9 at the Reeves and 4 at the Shamrock. And so the Reeves, for example, to house 9 preschool classrooms, they're out of space. There's no more space. So if we had to add another class to the Reeves, there's nowhere to, not an ideal place to put it.
Dr. Crowley, thank you, President Torres.
Councilor DeMambro?
Dr. Crowley, thank you for your presentation. Let me ask you a question. Where are we at with grade point averages? How are the grades in the reading curriculum, the mathematic curriculum? Where are we at? You know, K through 5 and in our middle schools and our high schools. Where are we at?
So again, I can get back to you with specific GPI. I don't know that off the top of my head. What I can tell you with our at the elementary level is that we use a test called a DIBELS. We administer, it's a literacy test 3 times a year, the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. All of our schools we just did the middle of the year analysis, and they're all moving in the right direction. It's color coded, so red, yellow, green. The more greens you see, the better. And so, anecdotally, we are doing well. I'm happy to come back or send you updated GPA information. On a GPA type question. Our valedictorian at the high school has been accepted to MIT this year, and so that's an exciting development. That's the first in a few years. So I think I use that because colleges look at the rigor of classes taken and GPAs, and so I think it speaks to the students, but also the staff at the high school preparing their students for their futures.
Yeah, if you can give me that information, that'd be great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, President.
Councilor Viola?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. Looking towards next year, are you expecting the ECP to grow? And are we going to end up having to take away a class out of the Reeves and possibly redistrict out?
Right now, no. So, we do look at, we try to work to project to the extent that we can with our, the number of births in the city, believe it or not. That's how we do it. And we don't necessarily project it to grow, but we can't also tell you who's going to move in. And so that's also, a factor.
Right. How close are we to needing that next classroom? Do you know how many student-wise?
I think we still have space to add students to the existing classes, and that's what we would do. We do have to keep in mind there's different ratios that, we have to be in line with. So you can't just keep adding into the classrooms. I was at the Reeves this morning in a preschool class. Very happy to be able to leave. A ton of energy. I was in there for a half hour. And there's 3 adults in the classroom, and they're all needed, and they're doing, so.
And
Also important is that it's a rolling admission because it's when you turn.
right.
So maybe not March 3rd, but as the year continues into next year, that may develop.
Right. Okay. And then looking at the current finances and expenditures that we've expended so far, do you foresee turning money back over again to the city like you did last year?
It's premature to give you a complete answer. I think we're in good fiscal shape. I don't, for example, the utility bills are much higher because we've had the heat on higher and longer. So some of those variable costs are moving. So it's a little early to say.
And do you foresee us running in the red in any specific areas?
Yes. Substitute is a line that we are running hot on. And these are the types of conversations that WUSTAT is good for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And from the chair, when this was posted on the agenda, I got a few questions that I'm going to ask you if you don't mind. So I think you addressed the first one. How does enrollment look this year compared to last year? It looks like we're down slightly, maybe by about 100 students, give or take, but the needs for the programs still prevent us from having the correct space. Is that kind of the gist of?
So yes, so you're merging two, so we're down. I'd say more than 100. I would maybe 150. I just don't. I don't want to hide behind the fact that our enrollment is down. But yes, the space that we can't. All 150 kids aren't just in one place, and so that doesn't. Does that answer?
Yeah. It's spread out throughout the district.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Yep. I think to kind of piggyback off that, one of the questions is roughly do we keep track of roughly what our per student spending is?
We do. So we are in 2024 is the most publicly facing answer because 25 hasn't been completely audited. We send an end of year report to DESE, and once they accept it, it will get posted. But in 2024, our in-district expenditure was $22,677 per student.
Sorry, can you repeat that number again?
Sure. $22,677.95.
Just for comparison purposes, to put you on the spot, sorry. Do you have the data from 23 just to compare? I'm assuming it's more, but
I do. In 2023, that number was $21,936.30. And in 2022, that number was $20,929.08. And so since 2022 to 2024, that's an increase of 8.5%.
With the current landscape of the federal level, we'll say, is there any anticipated changes, whether good or bad, in federal funding, grants and stuff, and at the state level as well?
So we don't anticipate any changes at the federal level at this point. Again, we're cautiously optimistic. So we get our federal grants. Title I is our biggest federal grant, and that is this year $753,026. And in 2022, it was $608,930, and so we've seen an increase in our Title I funding as well, and that is tied most closely to the high needs population that I was speaking about earlier. what it does is provides funding to our Title I students.
And the last question that I have is, since we passed the budget, or we'll just say since during this school year, have there been any unanticipated mid-year ad positions?
So the only position that's been added since we passed the budget is an assistant principal at the Alta Vesta.
That is all I have. I just wanted to thank Superintendent Crowley and Chair Cormier for coming before us and providing us with an update. Anybody else? I'm sorry.
I just want to
Councilor
add one
Demers?
thing for context.
Sure.
So the numbers we're hearing in terms of per pupil, that 8% annually per pupil would seem like a lot. But I'd like to point out that when the legislature approves their budget annually, they only increase per pupil funding anywhere between $50 and $100 per pupil for local aid. And right then and there, that was something upwards of over $1,500 per pupil per year. So that just goes to show that it's on us. The legislature is not coming to save us when it comes to funding education. So I just wanted to point that out, is that we're not funding under, but we're funding very aggressively to address the needs of our students.
Councilor Papalato?
Thank you. Just one thing, it might not be a simple answer, but I get constituents that ask me, we spend an awful lot of money in the school department. How do we know that we're getting our money's worth? So is there some way to look at the rankings that Woburn has versus other schools? You live in it, you know best how to do this. Is there, how would you respond to that?
The return on investment? I would tell you, or I tried to tell you in a variety of different ways. We have students going to MIT and to Ivy League schools. We are educating students that have prosthetics and are in wheelchairs and feeding tubes. I don't think it's fair to compare necessarily one district right against another, particularly geographically. I do know people do this, so and the way people do that comparative thing is through MCAS scores, and so that's.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is there some way to look to say, we've improved on our MCAS by this much and stack that against the, I don't know what the right answer is, but there's got to be some metric to figure this out.
Yeah, so the public-facing metric is MCAS. And so that is I call it the scoreboard, if you will, because I think that's your question, right? So the district that we are most aligned with as far as the MCAS and most like district is actually Medford right now. We, through the DESE website, we're able to pull, it's called a district analysis comparison tool, and so it's a DART. And so what it does is takes the student population and the percent of all the different subgroups, and then does an analysis to the extent that you're asking about, and I'm happy to screenshot it and send it to you.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. Because that I'm sure other people hear the same question, and it would be good if we could provide an answer to, consistent answer to the same question across the board.
Councilor DeMembro.
Just to follow up on Council Popolato, is it mandatory still in the state for all the students to take the MCAS, or wasn't there something on a ballot question that said that they wanted to do away with that?
So it is still mandatory that students take the MCAS. What changed on the ballot question is it's not a graduation requirement anymore at the high school. And so up to the ballot question passing, students in grade 10 you typically would have to take and pass MCAS as a graduation requirement. With that ballot question, they still have to take the MCAS, but it's not a requirement to pass to be able to graduate. Every city and town in the Commonwealth then had to create their own graduation requirements, which we've done.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much again. I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion to return to the
Make a
regular
motion
business?
to return to the regular order.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion that the matter be replaced on file.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion that we return to the regular order again.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now, under public hearings is NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for grant of location to install approximately 58 feet of conduit and one new manhole west of Harlow Court and Main Street. A communication dated March 2nd, 2026 was not on our extended agenda, but has been received by Jackie Duffy, the right-of-way agent, requesting this to be continued to the March 17th meeting.
Make a motion the communication be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second, open the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one,
Make a motion that the public hearing be continued to the regular meeting of the city council on March 17th.
Second.
we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for NSTAR Electric Company for west of Campbell Street and Main Street. A communication dated March 2nd, 2026, was received from Jackie Duffy, the right-of-way agent. This was not on the extended agenda.
Make a motion the communication be received, made part of the permanent.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion that we continue the public hearing to the regular meeting of the city council on March 17th.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda under public hearings is the Aaron Banker at 108 Arlington Road for a special permit. Not on the extended agenda was a communication dated March 2nd, 2026 from the attorney, James Giuliano, requesting a leave to withdraw.
Make a motion the communication be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good evening, Mr. President. For the record, Attorney James Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street, here in Woburn, on behalf of the petitioner. As the Madam Clerk stated, we were in front of the council on February 17th. Subsequently, on the 18th, we were in front of the Board of Appeals. This matter was denied for a existing non-conforming structure, as they determined it was substantially more detrimental. Therefore, we were going to play around and maybe hold it, but I think it's fair enough to take this off the agenda for now and then refile once we're ready. So we would respectfully request that the council withdraw this application without prejudice, please.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion that the leave to withdraw without prejudice be granted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to withdraw without prejudice. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excuse
Attorney
me.
Giuliano.
Next item on the agenda is 20 Franklin Street for a special permit at 20 Franklin Street, excuse me. Sorry, long night. A communication dated January 30th, 2026 was received from Tom Quinn, the building commissioner. Further, a communication dated February 23rd, 2025 was received from John Cashel, the planning director. And I believe there's one more communication. There is. Not on the extended agenda was a communication dated February 27th, 2026 from Jade Rand, the superintendent of public works.
Make a motion that all the communications be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So again, I'll keep this rolling for the record. Attorney James Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street here in Woburn, on behalf of the petitioner. This one we are also going to request to continue to the next hearing. We were, if you remember, we were going in front of the Board of Appeals for a variance instead of connection of the application. We have seen some neighbors have come up to us, voiced their opinions, so we decided to push the Board of Appeals hearing off, and we think at this point we have some revised plans that we are unable to get into for the record tonight, but we think we've worked out something that we are going to shrink the footprint, work with the neighbors a little bit more. We have been in correspondence with them via email and in person, so they are aware of that. And we think we can possibly withdraw the application for the variance, shrinking the building, and then our goal is to come back to you on the 17th, submit some revised plans, hopefully by early next week. We will let you know as soon as we get those. We're working with our draftsman, working with the site plan engineer, so we're working towards that. So that being said, we are requesting to continue this matter until the March 17th hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
I will be quick. Mike Pasek, 16 Franklin Street, direct abutter on Franklin Street. So just a couple of things quickly. We, the neighbors, as Jim just said, we want to make sure there's a successful project that is developed there and carried out. Just a couple of things we want to highlight. One is this is an older building, as much of Franklin Street is one of the oldest buildings in Woburn at this time. And that building was used as a three apartment. I won't call it a three. It's not an apartment building. It's a house that was broken up into 3 different rentals. The zoning is R2, so we just want to make sure that the council and the ZBA take a good measure of that. I'm not sure that it can be, without a variance, how an R3 can exist, but that's just something to think about. The other thing is, on the property, as in a lot of these non-conforming lots in town, you've got kind of weird mixes and matches how things go together. So there is an existing retaining wall for drainage purposes that extends from 16 Franklin Street, which is our property, onto and ties into the garage structure on 20 Franklin Street. That was not shown in the plot plan that was developed, plans that are going to be revised, but still, just for the city really needs to be aware of that. So in any redesign of the structure, we need to take into consideration how that retaining wall gets tied in, gets preserved, because there's at least a 10-foot elevation drop between basically street level and our backyard. So we want to make sure that we don't see, and as Chief Arillo and Jeff know, we've had continuous issues with drainage from the street level water coming into our backyard. So this was one of the things we built to prevent that. But since that wall now ties into that, the foundation of the garage that is proposed to be demoed, we want to make sure that that's addressed. And one of the other things is Franklin Street, again, due to its age, the sewers were put in 1896. The sewers in Franklin Street have not been updated since 1896. Water and gas have been, thankfully, but the sewer line at 20 Franklin Street specifically is the head end as that sewer line drains towards Park. In its installed configuration, it was a 6-inch diameter cast iron line. It cannot be any longer a 6-inch diameter line. So putting a 3-family at the head end, and it's at the highest elevation in the street it can be, that's more on the city than the petitioner, but that's something the city should be aware of. That I'm not, I do have a little background in engineering, so I'm pretty sure there's getting, 6 bathrooms, 9 bedrooms worth of people through that corroded 6-inch pipe would be a challenge. Okay, and that's about it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Anybody else in the public that would like to speak on this matter, please step forward. Seeing no one? Oh, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Shaughnessy, and I live at 31 Scott Street. I'm not a direct abutter, but I do live in the neighborhood, and it's the Hammond Square neighborhood. It's a very congested neighborhood. It's sandwiched in between Wynn Street and Main Street. So anything that happens, whether it's on Flag Street or Franklin Street or Chestnut Street or Scott Street, it affects the whole entire neighborhood. Now, we went to the Board of Appeals meeting, and the petitioner asked for continuance. And so we waited all evening, and we didn't have anything we weren't able to say anything or speak. So I appreciate you letting us come up tonight and speak. So I'm hearing the petitioner wants to change the plans. I came down on my lunch hour. I spent an hour in the committee room going over the plans that were submitted. And I'm assuming you have them all, the ones that were submitted, correct? That looks like this? Okay. And then, yeah, the clerk gave me this whole package. So it seems to me, there's no way this conforms to the character of our neighborhood. This doesn't even, this looks like something that belongs in a development. It doesn't conform to the zoning. It doesn't meet the frontage or the rear setbacks, so they couldn't do this without the variance. So if they want to build now without the variance, if they want to downsize, it should be fitting in the existing footprint. That's my opinion. I hope you've been by to see the house. Small little red house that was built in, I think, 1880. There's a lot of houses in our neighborhood that you could say they say it's a 2-family, 3-family. Well, there's a lot of illegal apartments. I would call them, they're more like boarding houses. There aren't families living in. There's just rooms sectioned off, and nobody even knows how many people are living in some of these places. And we've had a lot of fires. This house went on fire. The people that lived there obviously had to leave. I don't know where they went. The owner lived in New Hampshire. He chose to sell as opposed to rehab, so he sold it. There was also a fire a little farther down from here on Franklin Street. There was an illegal apartment in the attic, went on fire. The woman who lived up in that attic actually jumped out the window. Luckily, she wasn't hurt too badly, but I think she broke an arm. That's bad enough. There was a fire on Chestnut Street with another illegal attic apartment. There's one on Main Street a little farther down. That illegal apartment was in the basement. We had one recently on Union Street, one down by the pond. And so in this particular neighborhood, I mean, it's happening all over, but in this particular neighborhood, it's happening and nobody seems to have a grasp on it. It's hard to navigate to get in and out of this neighborhood now because of all the cars that are parked on the roads. The neighborhood has called the building department. We have been down in front of the traffic commission explaining the situation. We've done everything that they've asked us to do. Call your alderman, call the police. We've done all that, and things have not improved there. So I just want to bring that attention to the particular situation in our neighborhood. It's too congested. And we've really got to get a handle on these boarding houses that are propping up all over the city, and nobody seems to have a handle on it. So it seems to me that this plan that was submitted, that everybody reviewed, is moot. And so therefore, if there's going to be an entirely new plan, that perhaps this one should be withdrawn, and a new one basically go back to the drawing board. And maybe talk to the neighbors this time ahead of time instead of after the fact. And we realize something's going to go there. We just want it to fit in the neighborhood and not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public that would like to speak on this matter, please step forward. Seeing no one? Oh, sorry, Councilor Dillon.
Yes,
just want to address some of the concerns. I'm going to stay focused on what's in front of us tonight, which is 20 Franklin Street. And I will say that I've reached out many times in this process with Attorney Giuliano, and he has kept me informed. I'm not going to comment on the plans tonight because we've already been informed that there's a new set of plans, a new plan coming forward. So I just want to say that I feel as though he has worked with some of the neighbors that have reached out to him, and I'm going to ask him now, any of the other neighbors that have concerns, pretty easy to get in touch with, are you not?
Yes, I think some of them have my email address. We've been corresponding back and forth. I've reached out to them and mentioned if there's anybody else you can add to the email list, please do. But yeah, I mean, I'll save my remarks for the next hearing. But you know, we've decided to obviously shrink this project because of the neighbors and them coming out at the last meeting. So,
As I'll save most of my remarks till I see the final plans as well. But I encourage any of the neighbors that do have concerns, feel free to call me. And again, work with Attorney Giuliano. I've spoken to many of the neighbors. I've tried to keep everyone informed, including you, Catherine, what the information I've had. So I will ask this, Attorney Giuliano, you'll continue to work with Superintendent Duran. You saw his memo that he sent out.
I did, Councilor Dillon. So I know we've had these conversations before, but you know, in speaking to Superintendent Duran, I think we'll work with him with this application. We all know that obviously the existing house, the systems have to be upgraded. Just by the fact that the three-family now bringing it up to code requires fire suppressant. So that brings a whole set of plans and upgrades to water flows and things like that in and of itself. So we will continue to work with Superintendent Duran at all times, yes.
I bring that up with the concerns of one of the abutters with the drainage, the retaining wall as well. And I know it was spelled out that it would have its own drainage being in the water district.
Yeah, and again, you know, I'll present all this obviously next hearing, but it is in the groundwater protection district. One of our special permit is pursuant to section 15, which we are infiltrating the entire structure, which obviously is not being done at this point. So a lot of the impervious areas like the walkways and all of the roof runoff is being infiltrated, which is not done at the current site. So we are privy to that, and obviously we have to capitulate with this section 15 as well. So.
Thank you. Again, I just ask you to continue to keep the information submitted.
Absolutely.
And I'll keep the neighbors informed, and any neighbors that have concerns, feel free to contact me. Thank you, President.
Sure. What is the will of the committee?
Make a motion that we continue this matter to the regular meeting of the City Council on March 17th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we have WCV 45 Industrial LLC for a special permit at 45 Industrial Parkway. A communication dated January 30th, 2026, was received from Thomas Quinn, the building commissioner. Further communication dated February 23rd, 2026 was received from John Cashel, the planning director. Not on the consent agenda, I believe the petitioner is submitting some draft conditions as well as some plans.
Make a motion that communication be received, made part of the permit.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Again, last time tonight, for the record, Attorney James Giuliano, Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street, here in Woburn, on behalf of the petitioner, WCV 45 Industrial Parkway. With me here tonight is David Wilkinson, part of the owner group, and John Quasi from VEER, who you know, and this project is on behalf of them. So I apologize, I do have some stamped plans that were requested. I have 13 copies of stamped plans, and I did submit electronically, but I do have hard copies of the proposed conditions with me here tonight. I can
Make a motion
pass
to
this.
receive and make them part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
staple, and then the site plan separate, and then staple site plan. So it's a stapled package and then a separate site plan. Sorry.
That's mine. There you go.
Debating on which way to do it, and
I figured it out.
that's the best one I came up with.
Up and bottom?
Be easier.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Assistant clerk.
Doing great work, great work.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
I'm good.
I appreciate that. And just for the record, too, those are the same exact plans that were submitted with the application. It's just they are now stamped. Rather than supplement the pages, I just gave you a whole new package that was exactly what was filed. They're just stamped by the architect. So this petitioner is requesting a special permit under Section 5.1.69 for the expansion of a non-conforming garage door which faces Everberg Road, which is in violation of Section 8.7.10. I do want to note that, as you may have known from last year's petition, Veer has moved into 45 Industrial Parkway. This is the subject locus where Veer will be occupying, and I'll get into, the uses and things like that in a second. But if you're familiar with the Section 8.7.10, again, this is an existing non-conforming structure, is located in the IP zoning district, but back when this property was constructed, it was allowed that you could have a garage door that was facing a roadway. Well, since the 1985 zoning ordinance, Section 8.7.10 states you can have garage doors in the IP zoning district, but not facing a roadway. So Everberg Road, even though you go on Everberg Road, you go about 100 feet and you go through the trees, you do see some garage doors. But again, we didn't draft this at the time. So the property contains, as you're aware, 90,000 square feet of commercial space. It sits on 4.5 acres of land. Again, my client, Veer, is also going to be occupying this, as you know from the last application. Again, currently the eastern side of this building, if you look down that driveway, as I mentioned, there's 3 garage doors. The middle garage door, as shown on the plan, was all constructed back in '79. Sheet 101, if you look, you can more specifically see the garage door. The middle garage door, as it currently sits, is 9 feet high by 12 feet wide. We're proposing to expand it to 18 feet high and 21 feet wide in order to be able to have the capacity of oversized infrastructure that my client is fabricating. So again, from the last application, I'll probably botch this, but basically they're called winding machines. These things are very large. Councilor DeMambro was with me with the site walk. They basically take these superconductive coils. They wrap hundreds, thousands of feet within them. I was told they look like cassette decks. Once they create the superconductors in little coils, they wind it up into these huge, massive sort of rolls to ship out to be used by their clients. So the 9-foot doors are not going to be capable of putting these things through output. So this is the size that we need. And even then with that size, without being too big, this is something that we still have to sort of shimmy and maneuver around. So that was sort of the balancing point. We could get away with bigger, we could use a bigger size, but this was the size that was sort of thought as a balance. And again, I do want to thank Councilor DeMambro. We did another site walk. One of the sort of issues or concerns, I will say, was that, ripping out the garage door and putting a new garage door, what will the facade look like? Would it sort of look like things were put in that don't look? The intent was to make the facade look and feel like it was there from day one. So that is in one of our proposed conditions. So we feel obviously just by the nature of it, the door is not really creating any sort of concerns in the area as far as traffic or any noise or anything like that. The garage loading dock will still be used as it will be. It's just we need to pump out some bigger equipment that those doors that are there now are not capable of doing. So we have some proposed conditions that we worked with Council DeMambro and Commissioner Quinn with, and I did submit them for the record, but basically, obviously, the first condition is just accepting the plans that were, for clarity, submitted tonight, which again are the same, but we did mention that. All prior special permits, number 2, all prior special permits shall remain in force and effect. Number 3, all exterior materials, finishes, trim, and detailing associated with the enlarged loading dock shall match and blend seamlessly with the existing building facade, so on and so forth, paint, cement block. That was the major concern of Councilor DeMambro that this addresses. The petitioner shall install adequate exterior lighting over the entire loading dock area, which shall be dark sky compliant, not in violation, and obviously will comply with section 8.5.2 of the Woburn zoning ordinance. The petitioner shall install, number 5, the petitioner shall install and maintain security cameras covering the loading dock area for safety and security purposes, subject to the review of the building commissioner. Number 6, the applicant shall implement a pest management plan to require that all exterior rodent control stations are properly utilizing the Tarid 3 or Denticide, which the city has seen many times over the last year. Ongoing compliance with this as well. Number 7, all vehicles kept, stored, or parked on the premises overnight shall be properly registered and authorized in accordance with requirements of the city of Woburn. So those were the 7 proposed conditions that we are proposing, and obviously we are asking for the council to approve this tonight, please. So any further questions, I do have my clients here, and we can certainly answer any follow-ups.
Council DeMambro.
Attorney Giuliano, you and I worked extensively on this. I appreciate your cooperation with your client, folks from VIA. It's exciting. They went from R&D to, looks like they're trying to find a home, because it looks like their research and development's paying off. Good luck to you guys. I've talked extensively with Commissioner Quinn on this. He doesn't seem to have any issues with it. The few little minor things he's addressed with you, I'm sure. The conditions that are in place, I think, are sufficient and adequate. I've also took a tour of the building. I looked at the materials that will be used. I saw the garage door. It's a steel roll-up door. I saw all the steel that they're going to use once they cut the structure and to beef up the overhead, the header, and as well as the upright structures. Everything is in place. All that needs to be done is just installed. So I hope we can get the approval from the rest of my city councilors to move this forward this evening. But I have no more further questions on this matter. I think we've crossed all the T's and dotted the I's. Thank you. Thank you for your help on this. Thank you.
Councilor Viola.
Thank you. Good evening, Councilor. Just a quick question on condition number 6. The word exterior rodent control stations. Could we remove the word exterior and just have all rodent control stations?
Sure. I think that's a problem.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion that the special permit be granted with the 7
You didn't you didn't vote for that amendment.
oh, I'm sorry, I was going to say as amended.
It's not amended yet,
All right.
so you might want to amend it.
I'll make a motion that condition number 6 is amended to remove the word exterior.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And now I will make a motion to grant the special permit with the 7 conditions as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant the special permit. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your help.
Thank you. Guys, good luck.
Thank you.
Who's there?
Excuse me. Excuse me. Next item on the agenda, on the public hearings, is Pulte Homes of New England LLC for a proposed zoning amendment from the T-Bod to T-Broad. A request to continue was filed by the petitioner. Also, communication dated February 11, 2026 was received from John Cashel, the planning director, which is, I think, the recommendation from the planning.
Make a motion that the communications be received and made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Good, I was gonna say good morning. Good evening.
Almost.
In the morning.
For the record, Joseph Tabby, Reuben Redmond, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, on behalf of Pulte Homes of New England. As you know, this matter is still in the ordinance committee, and would like to continue the public hearing to the second meeting in April. Give us the opportunity to further meet with the committee and discuss the proposal.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
So we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
I will make a motion to continue this matter to the regular meeting of the council on April 21st.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this matter. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item we have under committee reports from the Committee on Ordinance, Charter, and Rules on the order amending Title VI, Animal Control. The committee report was received, ought to pass.
Make a motion the committee report be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is all the way down to motions, orders, and resolutions, is an order from the Traffic Commission for the amending Schedule 2, turning and moving restrictions to remove, sorry.
Various turns onto Washington Street.
Yes, to remove turning restrictions on Washington Street and then intersection with Snyder Court.
Make a motion that the order be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Real quick,
Oh, on the motion.
sorry, on the motion, real
I'll
quick.
let her-
Just for clarity, that these rules apply to everybody, not resident restricted. I believe that's the language, and I just want to get that out there, because I lived my whole life fighting battles over residency restrictions. This is a restriction for the movement of all cars on the road.
This is removing a restriction.
I'm sorry?
Removes the following.
It removes a restriction. That's from the Traffic Commission.
I'm sorry, I apologize. 30 seconds, you'll never get back.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt
The order.
all, adopt the order. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is another order from the Traffic Commission to amend Schedule 2, turning and moving restrictions to allow for no through traffic on Hart Place at intersection with Kimball Road.
Make a motion the order be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the order. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
There is nothing else
Motion
on the
to
agenda.
adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.